From timcast.com, U.S. records 300,000 non-COVID excess deaths. Non-COVID. Medical experts say many people had health conditions deteriorate or diseases go unnoticed because of lockdown policies. This story by Adrian Norman. The U.S. recorded nearly 300,000 excess deaths not attributable to COVID since 2020, with researchers tying the spike to lockdowns and delays in healthcare, according to a new report from Daily Mail. The total number of excess deaths since 2020 topped 1.2 million, but only about 295,000 did not have COVID listed as the main cause of death. And I'm going to pause there. Main cause of death? Is that for sure? Because what if they put died with COVID? We saw that in Illinois. I saw it in a lot of places, honestly. But let's just operate under the assumption it is just 300,000, because there's a lot of important things to be said about this. Most of the excess deaths are from cancer, heart disease, drug overdoses, and firearms. Medical professionals say the government mandates prevented those who needed care the most from seeing their doctors, resulting in the deaths of thousands. Quote, "It's a hard question to decide how many lives were saved by the shutdowns themselves," said Dr. Cody Wing, a health policy expert at Indiana University, told Daily Mail. "What we're finding is that some of the things people did to avoid COVID risk, one of those things was to cut down of regular healthcare utilization, and that had health consequences." And I think it's more than just that, to be completely honest. The U.S. is not alone in facing the grim consequences of pandemic lockdown policies. England's National Health Service will pay out more than £1 billion to settle compensation claims for criminal negligence after families who lost loved ones during the pandemic hired lawyers to sue the government. Europe now faces a cancer epidemic because of missed screenings during the pandemic. More than 100 million cancer screenings were missed. And as many as 1 million Europeans may now have an undiagnosed cancer because of government lockdown measures, Timcast previously reported. While the UK and other European countries had national lockdowns, in the US, restrictions were imposed on a state-by-state basis. Though there was no national lockdown policy, the decisions made by states and local jurisdictions contributed to spikes in excess mortality in the US. Wing says that many had their health condition deteriorate or had catchable diseases go unnoticed because of the lockdown. Cutting back care for COVID-sensitive groups was bad for their health, he said. Additionally, some patients made decisions to miss medical appointments out of fear, having been so deeply scared by the media and government officials that they decided to stay home. Okay. Excess deaths. A lot of people have been attributing these excess deaths to vaccination. Certainly when we're talking about unanswered questions pertaining to strokes or heart attacks, I understand why people may think these things. I'm not so sure, but I understand why people are scared. It was, I think, freepress.net wrote something about Damar Hamlin saying, like, why is everyone just outright assuming this cardiac arrest was caused by the vaccine? And I got to be honest, I understand, but I think some skepticism would be very important. Here's what I'm trying to say. The lockdowns were bad. The lockdowns killed people. The government mandates are the problem. I don't care about anything else. People come out and they're like, talking about vaccines and why they're against them and all that stuff. And I say, hey, look, that's your business. What you choose for your health is between you, your family, your doctor, however you want to do it. What I choose is between me. What's not is when the government comes out and forces us to get medicated, right? If you're a proponent of vaccination, why would you be a proponent of government mandates? These things are completely unrelated. If you oppose vaccination, well, then it's all about your choice and you can do what you want. Don't tell me what I should do. Granted, I understand why people are concerned. Don't get me wrong. The point is this. The government took action saying this will save you. It didn't. The lockdowns killed people. We know for a fact, not in dispute, failed policy from Democrat governors putting COVID patients in nursing homes killed people. Locking down cities and states killed people. Failed policy killed people. And it's not just delayed screenings. There's more. I know stories, people I know personally. I know a guy whose child committed suicide because of the lockdowns. It's crazy to think. Couldn't imagine that. It's got to be one of the most nightmarish feelings. These Democrat politicians, they enacted these policies, but you know what? I got to say it. You live in these places. You voted for them. You voted for these policies. You defended these policies. And it only got worse. It only made things bad. And now we are sitting on 300,000 extra dead people. Excessive dead people. And I hate to see it. But you know what? We told you so. And you didn't care. This is who the segment's for. To all the people who said, you should have gotten vaccinated, or you should have stayed home, or you should have worn a mask because of you, these people died because of this. No. Now you go to them and say, because of you. Because you defended authoritarian lockdowns. 300,000 people in the United States are dead. You had the choice to say no, but you supported it. These kids are going to be developmentally disabled. Many of these kids aren't going to learn to read. They're not going to understand facial expressions. And there's going to be more excess death because of the lockdowns. Look, man, people need to understand what the lockdowns were like. I was in the suburbs in New Jersey. We had a backyard. They told us we could not go outside, and most people didn't. Now, I didn't see anybody getting in trouble, but you could still go to the store. They said, go out only for what you absolutely need. They had in the aisles, the arrows going one, you can only walk down this aisle in one direction, which made no sense. Very weird. Very, very weird. But we were able to go in our backyard. You know, Ian would start a fire in the little fire pit, and we'd hang out, have dinner, and we got fresh air. But in New York, in Chicago, in LA, these other places, people were trapped in cubicle studio apartments, tiny little one-bedroom apartments with multiple people. They could not leave, and they began to deteriorate. They weren't getting sunlight. They weren't getting exercise. They weren't eating properly. We had a mini ramp in the backyard. I exercised almost every day. Got sunlight almost every day. But in the cities, it was decay. And because of this, people got weak. They lost muscle mass. Their immune system started to tank from no vitamin D. They probably weren't getting any vitamins. Their diets probably went to crap. Their mental health started to break down. Here's what I'm trying to say about all this. That is provably true. We know that you, those who advocated for lockdowns, did this. We know that there are dead people because you advocated for a policy that killed people. Period. End of story. Everything else, speculation. How many people were saved by the vaccine, they argue? We don't actually have those numbers. We have estimates. We say, we think. That's fine. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a policy of lockdowns. If the vaccines were going to stop transmission and save lives, then why the lockdowns? Why persist the lockdowns? Why bring back the mask mandates? Your ideas that you pushed, those who advocated for government mandates and lockdowns, resulted in death verifiably, and we look at it right now. So what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to say to people like that? How do we respond to family members when this is a fact? I don't have all the answers for you, man. I'm just perturbed. It's not the first time we read this story. The Wall Street Journal had a similar story. Among young people, specifically, more than half of excess deaths were caused not by COVID, were not COVID deaths. It was young people committing suicide, self-harming. It was young people not getting proper medical treatment, proper nourishment. And for what reason did we do this? For what reason did we sacrifice the younger generation? It's kind of scary to think about where we go in this country if we don't have enough young people to sustain the system. Older folks, many of these politicians, they didn't want to die. You bought yourself some time, I guess, sacrificing the young to save yourself. Well, I got news for you. Without young people to work jobs and generate revenue and resources, there's not going to be Social Security and benefits for those of you who voted for this. I'm not saying every single old person relies on those things, but the system will collapse. We'll have homeless elderly, and then what? And they'll die. They'll freeze, and it'll get worse. And we already have a lot of homeless people are elderly, or older, I should say. And it breaks my heart, and it pisses me off. But I'm glad that we now have the hard data. Let this be said, and share it with your family who are the naysayers, and say to them, you were the one who agreed with this. And those dead people, you are the one who pushed for the policy that led to their death. I'm not going to go as far as to say the blood is on your hands. But at a certain point, man, it's time we stop being passive and call them out the way they screamed at us. Your policies did this, not ours. Donald Trump could have been stronger. He could have absolutely been stronger, and he wasn't strong enough. I think he was scared that he would flub it, so he just kind of laid back on the governor's handle it, hoping he could blame the states. You need strong leadership, man. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.